Hey y'all, so this is one of the two week 2 assignments. This one's genetics and reproduction. Again, you'd have a little tab up here that said like directions or instructions, and then one that said assignments. I haven't published it yet, so it looks a little different. That's okay. So this one's going to be a blog post. Really the only difference that makes is it means you can use first person point of view. So you can say things like I, you, me, we, are, you know, that kind of stuff. Okay, so it's going to have to be at least 350 words, but after doing all the participation, that shouldn't really be an issue. It gives you the idea, the concept of the female copperhead snakes have the ability to reproduce sexually or asexually, In your opinion, which method is the best for the species and why? In general, on species in general, why? So you don't have to talk about specifically the snakes, just in general. And then we're going to discuss asexual and sexual reproduction in terms of genetic diversity. So you get 2 points for talking about asexual and sexual. And then another 2 points for talking about meiosis and what that has to do with it. So we probably have at least a paragraph on the first thing and a paragraph on the second, or maybe like a big chunky paragraph that covers both. And then you use one of Mendel's ideas to support your opinion. Be specific. So tell me what the idea specifically is that you're talking about. You'll probably need a citation with that. It can be the textbook or it can be another source, right? You probably need a citation for a lot of this stuff, but that's okay. And then you need to cite something against a point for references in text and full. Now you have to have the in-text citations and a point for full. So here there's a template just for the 100 level on APA that shows you how it should be set up, and you can just type into it. It's not as nice as the last template. It's not set up specifically for this paper. It's a general one. And then there's reference help, which is the walkthrough for the reference citation generator if you need it. And then I put all the rubrics this time together in one rubric because that's just what I feel like doing. Let me pause and then open that rubric. Okay, so here's the rubric. You see it's pretty much the same as what is in your instructions for the first part, and that's the list style. There's also the more table style, right, which just lays it out. So see, 6 points is going to be for all that stuff, 2 for each, and then you're going to have a point for references, a point for APA, and that will lead us to our total of 8 points, right? And here it reminds you that you do need to have an introduction and a conclusion. It doesn't have to be super solid, but you do need them, and you need a thesis statement. So even though it's a blog post, we're still going to write it like a regular paper, but because it's a blog post, you get to have your first person point of view, which is really nice to do for a lot of people. A lot of people have a hard time giving that up. You don't have to use first person point of view if you don't want to. It's just that you are allowed to do it. I personally just don't like to use first person point of view because I've just been so trained for so long that you can't. But if a good blog post, if you read a good one, they're still going to have good format, because that's what makes them readable, is like you're like, oh, I can read this. It's not just like all mashed together. So remember to double space it, all that stuff. Okay? And I think that's all this one tells you. So this one's pretty short rubric. Woohoo! And what I would do, I don't know if I told you this on the last one, what I like to do is just take this and kind of like highlight it. We'll copy it into my paper, maybe copy this part, copy into my paper, kind of like a heading. You can totally use headings. I love headings. And if you use it as a heading, you might call it like asexual reproduction versus sexual instead of the whole prompt, right? Reword it, and then you would just type below. But even if I'm not going to keep the heading, I like to just copy and paste that into my paper and then like type the answer below and then work on flow and delete that if I'm not going to keep it, or reword it and center it and bold it to be a proper heading. It just depends on what makes you happy. Okay, as always, drafts are usually due by Monday at noon. Check to make sure I haven't gotten sick or something, had to change that, and I hope this helped.